I have a lot of thoughts about the Baldur's Gate 3 TV show, which was officially announced the other day with Craig Mazen as the showrunner, who has done Chernobyl and The Last of Us, without Larian's full involvement in the show. Now, this is something that's happening either way, so I thought I'd write out the pros and cons and just my general thoughts, as this is something that has set the internet ablaze over the last few days. Now, I will start off by saying that I don't like that this is going to be set after the events of Baldur's Gate 3, as this is a game with a lot of player agency, and the stories matter so much to people. You spend hundreds of hours in this game, and to have all of what you've done kind of be erased with a TV show in a certain sense does feel a little upsetting, especially when D&D is so rich with lore, and there's a lot of ways that they could have taken this. Even it could have been somewhat of a prequel, and I think that would have been a little bit better, but either way, it's happening. I do want to also first off say here that Sven Vinkit did actually talk about this here, and he said that there's no Larian Raiders consulting on the show. However, Craig did reach out to ask if he could come over to the studio to speak with us. From the conversations that we had, I think he is a truly big fan, and he does have over 1,000 hours of Baldur's Gate 3 time, so hey, it sounds like he made it out of the character creator. And I think this series of tweets by Cromwell, who is the director of publishing at Larian, really sums up my thoughts as well, as they've spent 8 to 10 years of their life with the writers and creators of Baldur's Gate 3, and they're the most incredible storytellers and creators in the space. My only hope is that they get both the credit deserved and the characters are represented in the same level in-game. Don't abandon hope, but do expect the world. That's the job. I also think it's kind of nice that they did put in their bio too. The Chernobyl TV show is pretty good. So I guess of all the people to be handling a project like this, I think that HBO, things like Game of Thrones under their belt, and also Craig Mazen, who has done serious drama type TV show before, I think out of all directors and people that could be working on the show, it's not that bad. And I know a lot of people have been talking about The Last of Us Season 2 versus Season 1 and how Neil Druckmann was more involved in Season 1 with Craig Mazen there and how amazing that season was. But I also want to counterpoint, The Last of Us 2 video game wasn't really highly received just because of that emotional gut punch from the game, not to spoil anything for anyone that hasn't played, but I didn't like the story in the second video game, so I knew it wasn't going to be something in the TV series that I wouldn't like as well. But interestingly enough, Craig Mazen has also wrote for the Scary movies and also the Hangover 2 and 3 movies. So my first thoughts were something like Honor Among Thieves, that D&D movie, which was kind of based in humor. But nope, they're going to be using the actual characters in Baldur's Gate 3, which is kind of concerning. Again, I really don't like that it's continuing the story of Baldur's Gate 3, but that's something that's happening. Now, the next thing I know a lot of people are wondering about is who's going to be playing who. I am very concerned. I'm not sure if they're going to have all the characters. Then this will not even be filming until like 2027 at the earliest. So there will be time, but I would honestly like to see the voice actors and actresses reprise their roles. But I know there is a distinction between voice acting and actual acting, and it's not always the easiest thing, but the voice actors are who made the characters come alive, and these stories are very important to people. Although I did think this was really funny. Larian Studios tweeted this here, and I've also had some other fan casting that I thought about. Keanu Reeves, Gale, Miss Piggy as Shadowheart. I've seen that Larian retweeted this. Just a bit of humor because that's my coping mechanism for something crazy like this. I am really scared. This could go good, this could go bad, and it's just the fact that it's involving the characters is what scares me most. And I think the plot lines especially, things like Shadowheart, what are they going to do for her canon story? Like, just a quick look at the new Magic the Gathering cards. They are going the Dark Justiciar route for her. So is this what we're going to see in the TV show? Gale, obviously doing Gale things here. This is pretty normal for him. As a morally gray character, that's another concern that I have, is some of the more like morally gray choices that were in Baldur's Gate 3. Those are sometimes harder to convey in a TV show when there's no choice for the player. And also, what story we're going to go with Karlach? That's another massive, massive thing that we have to deal with. There's a lot of bad endings for Karlach, and I know players will riot if those happen. But also, how do you handle the story of what happens to her? Like, this is a tough choice. That's why I think it would have been better maybe as a prequel type TV show. We could have seen what the characters were doing before Baldur's Gate 3 even happened, which I think would make like more sense, as you're not going to be overwriting what players have done with the characters. And I think the character I'm scared for the most is actually Astarion, because he's got such a difficult story to tell with so much trauma that it's going to be difficult for them to actually convey that, I think, in a TV show, especially when a lot of the stuff happens in the game. However, I mean, the Game of Thrones style political type content could kind of work well, as he is a magistrate. And again, I'd honestly would have rather seen what he did before Baldur's Gate 3's story rather than after. But who knows if we'll even have a large involvement from Astarion. There's still just not a lot of information out there on what it means to have the characters in the TV show. I do want to go over some of the tweets from Larian employees too, because they do have some really good context here and, and funny memes and stuff as well. Funny enough, actually, Larian made a tweet about my Way of the Pizza Chef monk. They're asking what companion would be the most likely to be a pizza chef. I didn't even see this until right now. And this is why Gail was a pizza chef. They actually play in this on stream with my mod. Hilarious. And even funnier, Domino's Pizza UK tweeted back Fane, one of my favorite origin from Divinity Original Sin 2. This is just an amazing interaction. I just want to quickly share this. But Sven Vinka, the obviously head of Larian here, crazy that a story that started out in a small hotel conference room has evolved enough to be a narrative inspiring enough for it to be an HBO series. We have worked incredibly hard on making Baldur's Gate 3 worthy of its legacy, and the characters and narratives are the results of many teams working together, and I think I can speak for them all in saying that they'll think this is cool and hope that what comes next will enjoy the same level of passion. And I really hope so as well. But as we know, Larian Studios is kind of like lightning in a bottle as far as developers go. There's not many out there like them. The engines of Baldur's Gate 3 were created so they could serve as the narrative soil for new adventures. There's plenty of directions they could go. I'm eager to find out which ones Craig and his team will pick. He's reached out for a chat. We'll have the opportunity to tell him our thoughts. Crossing fingers while the story we're cooking for Divinity will eventually grow to the same heights, certainly putting in the hours. That's another thing. Sven really wants Divinity to grow after their success with Baldur's Gate 3, and they honestly deserve it. This is his own IP that they came up with, and that's where his mind is. I don't think they're going to have a huge involvement in the TV show because, again, it's not their intellectual property, and there's not a large incentive for them to be there. But I do think it is really good that they will be talking and helping out and just offering ideas. He is a huge fan of the game with over 1,000 hours played. I do think he understands the emotional weight of the choices and everything that relates to Baldur's Gate 3, although he did say the same about The Last of Us. So, I mean, The Last of Us Season 1 I think was great, and so was Chernobyl. This is just there's a lot of stakes at play here. But again, there is no Larian writers consulting on the show to Sven Vinka's knowledge, but Craig did reach out, so that is good. I also saw this really funny TikTok from Devora here. She found out there was going to be a Baldur's Gate 3 live action, went on the filters, got the small nose. Again, I would really love to see the actors and actresses reprise their roles in a TV show. I think it could be done very well, and they obviously love the characters. They spend many, many years working on this. So yeah, just some thoughts. Biggest red flag, continuing the story from the game. I don't like that, but I mean, hey, it could open up some cool stories. Craig Mazen, 1,000 hours in Baldur's Gate 3, made Chernobyl, The Last of Us Season 1. He also wrote The Hangover and the Scary Movies, which I think are pretty funny movies. So maybe we'll see some humor in here, although I don't always love things like the Thor Ragnarok 2 Love and Thunder, where humor takes over a bit too much. I honestly trust him not to do that, but yeah, that's something to consider. Big budget. This is a big pro. We can actually see mind flares, sweet VFX for different types of spells, armor, and all that. As you know, Baldur's Gate 3 is a very swagged out game. Like with all this armor, these are obviously mods here, but this is a really cool world to see explored with an actual high budget and actually getting to see some mind flares that look cool and like the Stranger Things ones. I think that is nice. It also lets us see more lore for the characters that we love, so that's obviously a nice pro, or it could be a massive, massive con. And as someone that is a big Borderlands fan and a Dragon Ball fan, our fan bases have a resilience to these bad adaptations that have come in the past. So I'm sure that you've probably watched something in the past as well, a video game adaptation, and it was not very good. So, I mean, at the very worst, we could always just pretend that this doesn't exist and just continue to use mods to make the world better, but a good villain. That's another thing that I'm curious about. What are they going to choose for a villain? Maybe we go to Avernus and help out with Karlach. And like, there's so many cool ways that they could go about doing that. I think the villain and kind of like the evil plot or whatever they're going to be going with the story is going to be important. With the mind flayers no longer being a large issue, I mean, there could be so many ways that they could go about this. But another thing, HBO shows are not shy to be mature. We got Sopranos, Game of Thrones, The Wire, The Last of Us. I think we're going to see a similar tone here where it's going to be more serious. We'll be able to learn more about the city as well. Upper City, we wouldn't really get past the gate there, so that'll be nice to actually see what Larian maybe wanted to do with the city and just like the stories that could be told there. I think there's a lot of potential there for places that Baldur's Gate 3 just could not go. Maybe we'll see romance done right. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. And Minsk and Boo, this is a big one for me. I'm a big fan of Minsk and Boo. I'd love to see Matt Mercer bald. I think that would be amazing. I would just love to see Matt Mercer play Minsk, so that's a big pro for me. I think it has to happen. Minsk and Boo has to show up. That's something, but there's no Baldur's Gate without Minsk and Boo, so yeah, I think so. The I don't knows. These are my biggest red flag potential scares. Shar, Shadowheart, Astarion, and Karlach. 3 very intense stories and characters. 1 evil character that could have a very large role in actually the TV show, since it seems like they're leaning into that dark justiciar Shadowheart route. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but That's why I put a big I don't know, because I really don't know. I'm just scared. I'm scared about these four in particular. Cons. Biggest con of all for me is a canon tab. We spend hundreds of hours again with our characters. They're important to us. So having a character that's, like maybe they won't have tab, maybe they won't be even involved in it. Maybe Dirge will be the main character. These are characters like having an actual canon version of them it's kind of painful because it goes back and almost like they saved over your playthrough and rewrote the character in a sense. So that is something I'm a little scared about. Romance as well, that is a pro, but it's also a con. Again, it could go bad. And everyone's going to have their opinions on shipping who with who. And the fan base, it's going to be intense. Another huge thing is pacing. Baldur's Gate 3, I know people that have 1,000 hours in this game and have not beat it yet. That's insane. There's just so much that you can do in this game. It's hard to convey in a TV show that's going to have like 8, 10, 12 episodes maybe. Who knows how long they'll be. They'll probably have to be hour-long episodes. That is going to be a big something to keep in mind. Morally gray areas. I talked about this a little earlier. It's going to be hard to actually convey that kind of choice because the player doesn't have that agency again to be able to make those choices. The tone and player agency are going to be huge, and that's something that's kind of concerning. And another con that what companions are going to be on the TV show. Like, there's going to be an imbalance. Like, we'll probably get more Shadowheart if she's in it. We're probably going to get more Gale. We'll maybe get less Will. And I know a lot of people are upset about things like that. So that's another big thing is like, how do you balance such a diverse cast of characters that have very deep stories? And that kind of goes back to my whole pacing thing. Like, how can you tell these stories without making them feel rushed? So yeah, this is a very scary thing to adapt. I'm going to try and stay cautiously optimistic. I mean, you can expect the world, but like if it ends up being a huge disappointment, I'm just worried about it being set after Baldur's Gate 3. But again, I have a lot of thoughts. I'll probably be doing a future video on this. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, because again, this is something that's so crazy to think about. Baldur's Gate 3 TV show. What? I'm also shocked they didn't talk about it to any gaming news outlets about this. It's just kind of randomly shadow dropped the other day. Absurd. Crazy. Yeah, anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.